Mr. Speaker, sir, Senior Minister and Coordinating Minister for National Security, Teo Chee Hean, has explained the key considerations underpinning the agreement signed at the Singapore-Indonesia Leaders Retreat on 25th January 2022, the main elements of the agreement, their implications for our bilateral relations, and the implementation process. I will now bring members through the specifics of the agreement on the realignment of the boundary between the Jakarta Flight Information Region and the Singapore FIR, and respond to the various questions from members on the considerations, implications, and the way forward for the FIR agreement. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me first outline how civil air traffic is managed around the world. Every state has its own territorial airspace, over which it has sovereignty. Then there are flight information regions, FIRs, which are blocks of airspace assigned by the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, to air navigation services providers, such as the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore, for the purpose of managing civil air traffic. FIRs do not have to follow territorial boundaries. And the provision of air navigation services, or ANS, around the world falls into three broad models. The first is where the state provides ANS for a flight information region that is within its territorial airspace. For example, the Aeronautical Radio of Thailand Limited, or AeroThai, provides ANS for Thai aerospace within the Bangkok FIR. The second is where the state provides ANS within its FIR, but the FIR extends beyond its territorial airspace. For example, Indonesia provides ANS over Christmas Island, which is part of Australia's airspace, but within the Jakarta FIR. Likewise, the US provides ANS over Canadian airspace within US FIRs. The third is where the state provides ANS in the FIR and territorial airspace of a neighboring state. This is typically done through delegation arrangements. For example, in order to manage traffic for Geneva Airport, Switzerland provides air traffic services for French airspace that is part of the Marseille FIR through a delegation arrangement. So, territorial airspace, FIRs, and the provision of air navigation services. These come together across the world in different models. But regardless of the model adopted, the paramount objective is to ensure the safety and efficiency of international civil aviation in accordance with ICAO rules. The FIR issue has been on this Indonesia-Singapore bilateral agenda for several decades. Its resolution will bring clarity not just to both countries, but also to the international civil aviation community. It will also lay the foundation for us to strengthen bilateral cooperation in the aviation sector and across our broader relationship. Singapore and Indonesia therefore agreed to discuss the FIR issue as an integral part of a broader framework endorsed by Prime Minister Lee and President Jokowi to achieve a durable and balanced set of agreements that meet both sides' core interests. Our aim was to, first, uphold the safety and efficiency of international civil aviation. Second, meet Indonesia's desire to align the FIR boundaries to correspond with its territorial airspace. And third, accommodate current traffic and future growth of Changi and Indonesian airports. The negotiations entail significant involvement and commitment at all levels of government, given the strategic, political, operational, and technical considerations. Based on the parameters endorsed by the two leaders, coordinating ministers, and officials from multiple agencies were involved in the negotiations. MOT CAAS officials, especially ANS experts, worked closely with their Indonesian counterparts to address the complex technical details, taking into account ICAO rules. The outcome of this consultative negotiation process is an FIR agreement that ensures the safety and efficiency of air traffic, addresses Indonesia and Singapore's interests and needs, and benefits international civil aviation. Mr. Gerald Giam asked about the air traffic arrangements under the FIR agreement. Let me briefly take members through the key elements. First, realignment of the FIR boundary. The boundary between the Jakarta FIR and the Singapore FIR will be realigned to meet Indonesia's desire to realign the FIR boundaries and largely take into account Indonesia's territorial baselines. Second, delegation arrangement. Indonesia will delegate to Singapore the provision of ANS for the airspace closest to Changi to meet Changi Airport's current and future needs. Third, under the delegation arrangement, CAAS will provide ANS such as air traffic services, publication of aeronautical information, and designing of air routes within the airspace where the provision of ANS has been delegated to Singapore. The FIR agreement also caters for civil-military cooperation in air traffic management based on ICAO provisions. Fourth, the delegation arrangement under the FIR agreement is for 25 years and shall be extended by mutual consent if both sides find it beneficial to do so. Indonesia and Singapore will consult each other and ICAO prior to the end of the 25 years to ensure safety and efficiency of international civil aviation beyond the 25 years. Ms. Po Lee San, Mr. Saktiandi Supat, Mr. Melvin Yong, Mr. Lim Biao Chun, and Mr. Gerald Giam asked about the implications of the FIR agreement. Ms. Cheryl Chan also asked the same in a question for written response. The FIR agreement decisively resolves a key long-standing issue on the bilateral agenda and paves the way for closer cooperation in air traffic management and other aviation issues. It clarifies how ANS will be provided in this busy and complex airspace and ensures that air traffic flows in our region, including to and from Changi and Indonesian airports. And this will continue to be safe and efficient. Let me elaborate. Every major airport in the world has a contiguous block of airspace for its arrival and departure procedures, which is essential for ensuring safety. It is necessary to deconflict aircraft when they are taking off or landing, which are critical phases of flight and when safety risks are the highest. Changi Airport, for example, had nearly 400,000 flights each year pre-COVID. The FIR agreement allows Singapore to continue providing ANS within a contiguous block of airspace, which is sufficient for Changi Airport's present and future needs. It will support the continued growth and competitiveness of Singapore's air hub and aviation-related sectors. The FIR agreement will also ensure the safe and efficient management of traffic to Indonesian airports, including Batam, Bintan, and Tanjung Pinang airports, which are in close proximity to Changi. The international civil aviation community will also benefit. The International Air Transport Association forecasts that air traffic in the Asia-Pacific will have the highest growth globally in or over the next 20 years. With the FIR agreement and closer bilateral cooperation, airlines and other aviation stakeholders will have more opportunities to tap on the future growth in air traffic in this region, grow their operations, connect more passengers, attract more investments, and create more jobs in our regional aviation sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, in short, the FIR agreement is a significant milestone in our bilateral transport relationship with Indonesia, which will bring benefits to Singapore, Indonesia, and the international civil aviation community. Ms. Po Lee San and Mr. Melvin Yong asked about the implementation of the FIR agreement. As explained by SMTO, the FIR agreement, Defense Cooperation Agreement, and Extradition Treaty are to be brought into force and implemented simultaneously. For the FIR agreement, first, the domestic processes for both sides to ratify all three agreements have to be completed. Second, the technical teams are working through the detailed coordination procedures for the FIR agreement, which are necessary to ensure a smooth transition in air navigation arrangements and to uphold safety and efficiency. Third, Singapore and Indonesia will jointly consult all relevant stakeholders and submit a proposal for amendment for the FIR boundary realignment and delegation arrangement to ICAO for approval. And fourth, once the FIR boundary realignment and delegation arrangement are approved by the ICAO, Indonesia and Singapore will agree on a date to implement the FIR agreement and for all the three agreements to enter into force together. Mr. Preetham Singh and Mr. Saktiyandi Supat also asked what will happen after the 25 duration of the FIR agreement. SMTO has spoken on this. Let me add from the civil aviation perspective. This is a durable FIR agreement. We will have 25 years to implement the FIR agreement and gain experience from the new arrangements. It will allow both sides to strengthen our bilateral transport ties, and it establishes a foundation for further cooperation in the provision of ANS and in other areas. The aviation sector will continue to develop with advancements in technology and ANS procedures. As air traffic and airports grow, our operational needs and aviation standards will also evolve. All these elements will shape the circumstances under which we will make decisions in the future. Under the FIR agreement, the delegation arrangement shall be extended by mutual consent, should both sides find it beneficial to do so. Singapore and Indonesia have agreed to consult each other in ICAO before the end of 25 years to ensure the safety and efficiency of international civil aviation beyond the 25-year duration. Mr. Speaker, sir, in summary, the FIR agreement is a key pillar of the expanded framework which will advance our mutual interests. We were able to achieve this outcome because both sides approached the negotiations with a shared commitment to uphold the safety and efficiency and support the growth of international civil aviation. It has also laid a firm foundation for closer cooperation in aviation and other areas between Indonesia and Singapore. In closing, I would like to express our deep appreciation to the negotiating teams from Singapore and Indonesia. In particular, our MOT and CAAS officers for their hard work in concluding the agreement and achieving an outcome that is good for Singapore, for Indonesia, and for international civil aviation.